So middle childhood, we're looking at, between the ages of 6 and 11, 6 and 12, kind of depending on when you think adolescence starts. Spoiler, there's no right answer. There's a lot of discussion and debate over that, and there really isn't a firm answer. We do have lower death rates once kids kind of get through this risky time of early childhood. Their risk of death drops to its lowest until it starts peaking back up as a teenager or an early adult. Um, and then, of course, it gets much higher once you hit much older age, like 85 or higher. Um, Fatal diseases are rare during this time, thanks in largely to immunizations. But accidents and homicide are also much lower in middle childhood than they are as a young child or than in the teenage years. Physical activity is good at any time period in the lifespan, but particularly during this time from 6 to 11 or 12, you've got better cerebral blood flow and more neurotransmitters. Typically, kids who are getting enough physical activity have better mood and better energy. And then their cognition is a little bit better. They're kind of running on all cylinders. So, it's really useful for kids to get their energy out, have some physical activity. We do have a lot of challenges for kids kind of getting outdoors and moving with more kids living in urban environments, more technology, which is kind of slowing kids from going outside. Certainly, it costs a lot of money to put kids in these after school activities and things. Um, there's so many things, but they do find pretty overwhelming evidence that less physical activity may indeed cause less learning for kids. I think I mentioned this in another chapter, but schools are trying to kind of incorporate movement into daily routines. This website, if you click on the link, is just it's not a video, but it's just showing some of the ways they've integrated movement into math classes in certain elementary schools. Reaction time is just the time that it takes to respond to a stimulus, either physically or mentally. So you hear something, a ball's thrown at you. How fast do you react to that? How fast can you pick up on it? And that does improve during this time for sure. Thanks in large part to these neurological advances, executive control, and selective attention. We talked about executive control. Selective attention is just the ability to really selectively choose what you're paying attention to. You can tune out other people's noise. You can listen and focus in on the conversation at hand versus kind of paying attention to everything. It's hard to decide what to pay attention to sometimes. Once you have better selective attention, you can choose to tune out things that aren't important to your conversation at hand. Since 2000, the rates of childhood obesity in the U.S. have leveled off. They have even declined a little bit in preschool children. However, obesity rates are still climbing in other nations, including China and India. And to be honest, I'm not even sure how up to date that is. I feel like we hear about obesity kind of constantly in our current environment. So it's definitely something we still need to watch with kids and with adults, or no one's perfect. but making sure we have healthy food available to whomever wants it is an issue as well. Um, you'll see here a correlation. Again, correlation is not causation, but kids who are overweight in childhood tend to then have asthma, high blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, and loneliness. But that just because they're overweight does not mean that is the cause of those things, but kids who are overweight are more likely to have these things.